Hey gang, Ronan here. As you can see, this video is going to be about the Tier 7 Premium Japanese destroyer Yūdachi. This is a ship that when I first picked it up, I really didn't have very high hopes for. I had seen a couple of other videos about it, a few reviews, and was not encouraged. But I actually really like this ship. It's a lot of fun to play. I want to give you some idea of the characteristics of the ship. Just standalone, and then also the way that I've got it set up. Okay, so the guns are 127s. You've got a fair number of them. You can see there you've got a total of one gun on one turret, and then two guns on two turrets for a total of 5 guns. Let's take a look at that. All right, so as you're looking at it here, you can see you got a gun there, and then you got 4 here. The reload time, 9 seconds. 180 degree turn time, 22.7 seconds, the way that I have it configured. The base 180 degree turn time on this ship is 30 seconds. So you've got battleship turret rotation. And this is really not all that uncommon for Japanese destroyers. They are kind of torpedo focused, many of them. And that being the case, the turret traverse is pretty awful. In fact, if you don't do anything about it, which you can see that I did, dropping it down to 22.7 seconds, you can easily outturn the rotation of your guns, which if you're fighting with another destroyer, can really put you at a serious disadvantage. But the guns hit pretty hard. Maximum HE shell damage, 2150 with a 9% fire chance, and your initial HE shell velocity is 915 meters per second, which is really good, and will allow you to put some nice shots on target really all the way out to the maximum range, as long as something's not running away from you. Nice flat arcs on these things. The guns are really not that bad, and I think very often on torpedo destroyers, guns are kind of neglected, but especially maybe on the Japanese destroyer line. And I encourage you to use them judiciously. You don't want to just go in guns blazing, but especially if you see an opportunity to get something set on fire after it's already used its damage con, or if there's a damaged destroyer maybe you could finish off. These guns can be very good for that. Okay, so that's the guns. The AP shells, you're not going to have too many opportunities to use those. 2200 max damage with the AP shells. They don't have a whole lot of penetration, and it's not going to be common that you're going to want to use those. And if of course, if you're firing on subs, you never want to use AP. All right, torpedoes. Well, you've got 8 torpedoes. They have a range of 15 kilometers, which is really good, with a max damage of 15,633. They run at 64 knots, the way that I've got it configured, and that is the base speed for the torpedoes. You can increase that a little with commander skills. It's debatable how much that's going to help. I mean, it does help a little, and I'm sure there would be some who would argue that you really should, but I generally don't. Okay, so that's the torpedoes. Depth charges, well, if you land some, they can hit pretty hard. AA defense, that's just straight up a joke. Maneuverability, max speed, 35.7 knots. Well, that's really not that bad, right? The World of Warships wiki shows the base speed at 34 knots. You can see I've got it at 35.7. The turning circle radius is only 570 meters, which is really not bad at all. And the rudder shift time is 3.2 seconds, so I didn't feel any need to make any adjustments there. I have the concealment down to 6.1 kilometers. The base is 6.79, 6.8 kilometers. 6.1 on 15-kilometer range torpedoes, that can work pretty well. You don't want to get yourself caught on a radar. You don't want to get so close to a destroyer sitting in smoke that you become the victim of that destroyer's hydro. But these torpedoes hit so hard that sometimes you can put them in places where you're anticipating a destroyer being, and occasionally you're going to land one. So let's take a quick look at how I have the equipment set up. Main armaments mod 1, just keep your guns and torpedoes in working order. Damage control system mod 1. Now, what are your options there? Well, it's either that or engine room protection. and I go with damage control. The next slot is main battery mod 2. You've got some other options here, but I think myself that the most important thing on this particular ship is you need the turret rotation, because that is going to allow you to make good use of these guns, in my opinion. Whereas if you don't have that, it is really, really tough to make these guns work for you if you find yourself in a gunfight with another destroyer. And finally, I use propulsion mod 1 because I like to be able to move out of harm's way quickly. The rudder shift is already really good with a base of 3.2 seconds, so there's not really that great a need for that. Okay, so there we have that. I do have Juliet Charlie to eliminate the possibility of going boom on one shot, and I use Sierra Mike to increase the ship speed. Now there are some other things that you might use, but that's how I have this thing set up right now. And with that, it's time to take a look at a recent game in the Tier 7 Premium Japanese destroyer, Yūdachi. Okay, we've had a look at the port information on the ship. We've compared it to the base stats for the ship from the World of Warships wiki and taken a look at the same information with the way that I've set up the commander and the modules on the ship. And now it's time to get into the game and have a look at the ship from that perspective. Now this particular game, this one I really felt like we had no right to win. But I think it does highlight some of the strengths of the ship. Let's just move forward here a hair. I do generally try to cover whatever area of the map I spawn in, and I did that here. And I've put some torpedoes out preemptively using the radio location indicator, because while it doesn't always happen, it is not uncommon for ships to make a rush for the cap. And because you have the torpedo reload booster on this ship, you can put out one set and then very shortly thereafter put out a second set, and sometimes you can catch someone unawares who either is not expecting torpedoes at all in a particular area, or sees your first set of torpedoes go by and says, hey, okay, I guess I can move now, only to be caught by the second set. Now I talked a little bit about the turret rotation on the Yūdachi, and it is really slow. Take a little bit of damage there. And you can see the turret rotation is still not great, and that's even though I've used a skill in order to try to make it better. You'll see quite often that I begin trying to rotate the guns even sometimes in advance of a turn if I know that I'm going to be turning, so that I don't have the turrets chasing the rotation of the ship. Now he was able to get back far enough to avoid taking any damage from either of those volleys of torpedoes. The red team on this side falling back, and I can't really say that I blame them, as I get detected here by the Shiratsuyu, and I'm just going to make use of the smoke here. Go dark. Close enough now where if I had fired, Senup would have had a clear view of me and might have hit me pretty hard. So I opted to do what I'm doing now, just kind of stay hidden and put out another set of torpedoes. Now, torpedo reload, while it's not great, is not terrible, and you do have the reload booster, which can help a lot. Okay, so right now I'm just trying to spot for my team. I'm waiting to see if I get eyes on Shiratsuyu. If you take a look at the mini-map down here, you see that I have a whole bunch of friends down here. And with that many friendlies in one area, it's a really good bet that Shiratsuyu is going to be putting torpedoes there rather than where I am. And I'm counting on that. That's the only reason I'm sitting here kind of broadside to where I know the Shiratsuyu to be, because I do not expect him to throw torpedoes. And look at that. Boy, was I wrong, right? And look at... Oh, yeah, it happens. So... yeah, about it there in the chat. I thought, well, I'm angling because,
On Neptune's
Shiratsuyu has the option of torpedo reload booster or smoke, but I didn't expect torpedoes to be coming my way. Now, I do manage to land one on the Sinop, and he's kind of in trouble. I mean, he's trying to reverse out of trouble. There's so many buoys just kind of southwest of my position. There's just a question of time until he gets burned down. Now, he may have that ridiculous Russian commander who, gives you a heal and all kinds of other boosts as you get down on HP, but regardless, he's in serious trouble. My torpedoes are back up, and I'm debating about whether to send them his way or not, because I have a lot of friendlies who are putting shots into him pretty consistently. Yeah, I don't think he's going for this world, so maybe I hang on to him for another minute and put them to better use in another area of the map. Now, the Shiratsuyu, wherever that ship is, it knows I'm in the cap now. So I have to be ready for the possibility of torpedoes coming. And what I was looking at there is the Alabama. You see how it's moving away from me? So even if I put torpedoes out that way at this distance, there's no way they're going to get there in time. So I went ahead and threw them out there against the Sinop on the hope that maybe I might catch the destroyer, if not the Sinop, as expected. My teammates that are now south of my position finished off the Sinop, and the radio location indicator is telling me the direction of the Shiratsuyu. Now I've used the reload booster, the torpedo reload booster, and I'm just trying to get as close as I can here to put torpedoes behind all of these red ships. And you can see all three of them are moving away from me, so I may need to get closer. Our U-190 takes out the red team's Salmon. We are now down a battleship and a destroyer. Red team is down a battleship and a submarine. The red team has 2 caps. We now have 2 caps as the Pommern takes out our New Orleans. And we're down, almost, 219 points. Pretty significant. We're a little over 7 minutes into the match, and I feel like, okay, I'm probably close enough now where my torpedoes could catch up and do some damage to these guys. But since I plan to help out in the Bravo cap, I'm just going to keep getting as close as I can. I'm just taking a look here to see what my teammates are doing. I kind of expected that they would push out, maybe to make use of the islands in the Delta cap, but nope. All right, torpedoes away. I'm going to get in here and see if I can't help our Brandenburg. Who is he is under withering fire. Does it look like AP? It's pretty hard to do a lot of damage with cruiser AP against an angled German battleship, but what do I know? Now the radio location indicator is telling me that the closest ship to me, unless the Shiratsuyu or Yūgamo are there, is the Scharnhorst 43, and I'm just keeping an eye on that so that I don't get caught. I don't want to get detected here, but I'm trying to get close enough. Ooh, detonation. Took out the Scharnhorst 43 with torpedo, and here comes the Minnesota. I've got torpedoes back up in 12 seconds. Minnesota is surprisingly agile in terms of turns. It has been my experience that a nose-in Minnesota can be kind of hard to land torpedoes on, but I'm going to give it a whirl. And you can see some smoke there. Maybe I catch a destroyer. We've secured the Bravo cap, but we're down 5 ships and the red team is only down 4. So while I have to play somewhat conservatively as our Brandenburg gets sunk, we're now down half our team, and the red team is only down a third of its full strength. Harlem's trying to catch that Minnesota with an airstrike, and I'm just trying to maintain visibility without getting spotted. I do have smoke if I need it, but I'd rather save that than use it unnecessarily. And as soon as I smoke up, the Minnesota's going to know right where I am. Now, Pommern is sitting basically full broadside. So I'm going to hit the speed boost and the smoke, and Pommern loses half his HP, which you might expect. He's at what, like range 6, range 7 from a Minnesota, and I'm just going to try and provide him some cover and hope that he's smart enough not to keep shooting his main guns and fall back. 7 seconds until the torpedoes come back up. You can see the Flint there. I definitely don't want to get caught by that thing. Torpedoes away on the Minnesota. I just have to hope he doesn't turn in. If he does, well, those torpedoes aren't going to do anything either. Star Edinburgh, well, okay, he's smoking. I'm going to have my torpedoes back up here in a second, just making sure I don't catch the corner of the island. Torpedoes away. We have the cap. Minnesota's going to be moving into it. And let's see how many torpedoes I can land this time. Well, I might have hit the Minnesota, but our Pommern secondaries finished him off. So we're still down 6 ships, and the red team is now down 5 ships. And my torpedoes are looking pretty good on that Edinburgh. So I've got my fingers crossed at this point. I have not had what I would call a stellar game. 54,703 damage with 1 ship sunk on a couple of torpedoes. And it was a detonation. But there we go. Look at that. And there's a second set. And it finishes off the Star Edinburgh in his smoke, probably more or less full broadside, hoping to make use of all of his guns. And as we all know, and you probably heard me say here many, many times over the last few years, don't sit broadside to the likely approach of torpedoes in your smoke, because rather than eating one, possibly like I did a little while ago, you might eat so many that you sink. Okay, so here we are, both teams now down to 6 ships. I've got a little over 87,000 damage, and I'm going to have to do some blind firing here. We've got a couple torpedoes on that side, or torpedo destroyers on that side. And I'm wondering right now, is there somebody sitting in this spot? I'm just going to cover that whole lane. And I just don't want to get caught out here. My guess is Alabama and Flint are just putting everything they have into the Iowa. And this Pommern is probably going to be making a rush for this cap. My expectation. Just wanted to kind of highlight that to my team. It's the only reason I pinged him. I've got 50 seconds before my torpedoes are going to be back up. So I'm not going to be able to do a whole heck of a lot to keep him out of the cap for right now. But you can see I've got teammates who are already putting shells on Taz Omega. I don't think my torpedoes are liable to do much there, as Flint has pushed outside of that. Alabama's way out of my torpedo range. And right now I'm looking at saying, okay, I've got 25 seconds till the torps are back up. I may have an opportunity here to get torpedoes on the Pommern. Now I'm going to take a break here. I'll be right back. Okay, now back to the action. Sorry for the sorry for the disturbance. I got a business call there I had to take. All right, so I'm kind of looking at the number of seconds I've got to wait before my torpedoes are back up, and I'm thinking, yeah, there's going to be a great opportunity here, because what can the Pommern do? If he turns, he's showing broadside to another bomber. So I'm expecting he's either going to throw it in reverse and slow down, which is why I set the second set where I did, or just make a run for the other Pommern and try to take our Pommern out. And I'm just, right now I'm looking at the indicator of where his nose is. You can see he's turning toward the Pommern. And at this point I know that if somebody else doesn't finish him off beforehand, my torpedoes will, and I can focus my attention somewhere else. Our Hipper, well, he's doing all he can. I mean, you can see he's putting shots on that Pommern, which I think is great. But he's going to be seriously outgunned if he's not careful as he moves north around the island that's just on his port side there. I do finish off the Pommern. Not a whole lot of damage left to do, but he's gone. So that's kill number 3. I'm sitting at just shy of 96,000 damage. Not great, but respectable. And keep in mind, I'm bottom tier in this game. So I'm feeling pretty good about the way that things are turning out right now. And I know the Shiratsu, he was sitting in the Bravo cap but with Pommern and Harlem pushing toward him, he's decided discretion may be the better part of valor, and he's moving out of there. And I can see why. His team is winning. Now, granted, having that cap would have helped, but, excuse me, his team isn't winning. Sitting in that cap and dying is not going to help his team. So he, I think, wisely decided to push out of the range of the Pommern's Hydro. See, I missed on the Yūdachi there. And our Hipper, meanwhile, he's just been taking a beating. And thank goodness those shots from Alabama missed. But Hipper's he's not long for this world. Well, one more volley, and it's probably it for him. He is nose in. He's angled as well as he can. You can see he bounced something there that went off into the water on his starboard side. But this is probably it. Yeah. Okay, so I've got to face down a Pozarski, and I'm not exactly sure whether to drop the torpedoes now or wait and see where he goes. All right, there's my best guess. I think he's going to continue forward and then turn to his starboard side, to the left of your screen. That's my guess. That's why I put the torpedoes out where I did. The first set may be out ahead of him, and if it is, he'll probably turn toward me, which maybe the second set is then able to catch him. We'll see. That's my hope. All right, so we're up right now by about 90 points. There's 3 minutes and 42 seconds left in the game. There, yep, he's turning. Did I catch him? Yes, I did. And the Harlem finishes him off with an airstrike. Nicely done. Now we're down to 2 ships. The red team has 3, but we have an almost 200-point lead. And I'm thinking, hey, this game is quite winnable at this point. Now our Harlem, he's in big trouble. He's got about 23,000 HP, and he doesn't really have anywhere to run. He's sitting broadside to the Alabama, and he gets blapped. Now there are 3 minutes left in the game, and I couldn't help but laugh. He did a great job, but he was in literally between a rock and a hard place, quite literally. And the Pommer's saying he was in the wrong position, but what else could he have done that wouldn't have essentially ended up the same way? Now he's got 2 torpedo destroyers out here he's got to worry about. Let's see where the radio location indicator is, and of course it just changed. And I'm expecting that there might be a destroyer just on the other side of the island that's kind of in the middle of just about where my reticule's at. And I'm wondering if I can get eyes on him, because if I can reset that cap. We have enough of a points lead where I might not have to, but I figure if I can, why not? I do have smoke. I can break line of sight. I just don't want to get caught by the Alabama, so I'm going to get a little bit closer here to the island, start turning the ship, see if I can get eyes on the destroyer that's closest, and then just run. And you can see the Brandenburg, stay out of me. Well, yeah, and I can't blame him for saying it. In World of Warships, you never want to ask the question, how stupid can people be? Because you're going to get an answer, and it's going to be demonstrated right here in the form of the game. And I'm sure you've played those games and been in those games and been on that team. We all have. But no, that's not going to happen. I don't want to get caught by the Alabama coming around the corner. I don't want to get caught by one of these destroyers coming around the other side. So I'm just going to run. I only have to stay alive for 1 minute and 22 seconds. I'm pretty sure the Alabama's coming around this way, so I'm going to throw these torpedoes out there. Because if I can land a torpedo, he's either going to turn in toward me, which will allow me to get around him, to just continue the way that I am, and then maybe turn a little bit to the starboard side, just stay ahead of him, and create a little bit more space between myself and any pursuing destroyers. I've hit the speed boost just to make sure that one of those destroyers doesn't catch up to me. And at this point, I'm saying, we've got this one in the bag. We're at 955 points. The red team's at 794. I'm going to scare the Alabama away. There's no way either of those destroyers is going to catch me. And this one's a win. This ship really is a lot of fun. I have another video of this ship that I'll be showing you It'll probably be the next one that I post up, actually, where I did much less damage, but ended up, I think, with 7 kills. Very fun ship to play if you like torpedo destroyers. Yes, it can be very frustrating at times because you have to have at least a couple teammates who are worth their salt to make good use of any torpedo destroyer, at least in my opinion. But it is a fun one. If you get a chance and you enjoy this kind of gameplay, I think you probably really enjoy having this ship in your port. It's one that I play very regularly, as you saw with my port information. It's one of my favorites. Okay, 117,892 damage, 8 torpedo hits, sunk 3 ships, 5 floods, picked up a capture, assisted in a capture, spotted 8 ships. Not bad. How'd I do on the team score? Well, top scoreboard, a little over 2,000 base HP. Tip of the hat to Palmer and Harlem, who both also did pretty well. And, the opposition was good. Minnesota, Alabama, Yūdachi, Palmer and B, all of them played a very solid game. And also the Flint, you can see almost 1,000 HP for the Flint and the Alabama. And I put damage on a lot of different things. I was able to finish off the Scharnhorst courtesy of a detonation, which doesn't happen very often, but hey, I'll take it. I did and will take full credit for the Edinburgh being sunk, finishing off the Palmer. A little bit of damage on the Pizarski before our Harlem finished him off, putting a torpedo into the Sinop, and also the Alabama there at the end of the game. 38,501 spotting damage, potential damage 140K basically. You can see I did a little bit of damage with torpedoes and really none with guns in this game. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I think this is a fun ship. I think it's probably often overlooked. Is it overpowered? No. Is it something that I consider super competitive? No. But I think it's fun. Thanks very much for joining me. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.